It will be sized for a full competitive level gym. So it has over 1,000 seats, bleachers on either side. It's got the stage on the end, which is very important. That's what allows it to be a multi-use, is you can use it for multiple things, including graduation or any events the school would like to have. And then just to the right of that, and then the locker rooms are underneath the stands on either side, typical in gyms, right? And then you can see to the right of that is the large lobby, and those restrooms that you can see down near at the bottom, those are sized so it's multi-use. So when you have football games, that's enough restrooms for all the people in the football stands. When you're having basketball events, it's sized for all the people in the basketball. So is what that allows is it's concessions that can be used. We got the same cooking and food facilities that you can have inside the lobby for basketball, and you can have outside. You see two doors going up to the North Plaza for football as well. So again, multi-use. in with the campus feel. Next. So this is the wellness center area. This is where I was talking about the walking track and the fitness area. So it'll even have its own parking area, depending on how the school wants to work the hours with this. This can function in a standalone area, and you lock the doors so they're not getting into the restrooms. They're not getting into the locker rooms. They're not getting in the other areas. It can function as a community fitness area. Next. And then this is just an overall shot from the southwest. So you can kind of see it's all one building, but it kind of functions as 3 in 1, right? And then you can see the football field in the back. So that's what the bond is about. So multi-purpose areas, we're providing the needs of the students while also trying to provide areas for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Ben, is there anything you wanted to add to that? Did you have any thoughts?
No, nothing. Not really. The one thing I might add to this is, not to get ahead of anything, this is a continuation of what we started in 2013 with Richard Brown. He understood when he came up with that original plan that this was going to be a series of improvements. And the priorities then were classroom spaces, roofs, you're right, maintenance, some really important things, and we got all that stuff taken care of. And completely neglected any of the athletic stuff, even though it had needs. Just didn't hit his priorities. Well, I feel like now we're at the point where we can turn attention to some of these other facilities that are needing some attention. So just wanted to add that in. This is not a new idea. This is always sort of part of the plan.
Thank you, Ben. Van, could you give us your perspective on this project? Pros, cons? What's the pros?
Yeah, my name's Van Storm. I'm with Jody Hall. Ben and I worked together on the last project here, the high school, elementary, and re-roof. And so happy to be back to have the opportunity to help you guys deliver this project. You know, we've done a lot of football projects, and this one, you know, it's kind of more all-encompassing because it includes a building to go with it. Sometimes it's just a track or a bleacher, and you know, part of the objective here was to be as efficient as possible with the event center because I think Scott touched on that, but sometimes if you're building 5 or 6 of these buildings over time and in separate buildings, it's just less efficient. So you're able to get more value for that event center itself. So that was very nicely done by both Ben and Scott to put it together. So other than that, I don't really have any other comments. So.
Thank you, Van. All right, Matt, can you give us the lowdown on the numbers? This is Matt Reimer with McDonald Associates. They do help us get all the money figured out.
The lowdown, if you will. Shane, the best idea was that impact to taxpayer card that I believe was on the back table to me, probably front table to you coming in, so that you could get an example. Not to insult anybody, but I want to do the dreaded let's not assume anything here. I want to let you see how that card would read. For those of you that have that impact to taxpayer card, I'm going to use that line that's a little bold of the $100 amount. That's under the 2021-2022 tax amount, showing $100. We are projecting this one to be a 4.99% increase to the taxpayers at Hinton. What this chart is showing you is what 4.99% would mean to you. For every $100 that you paid in taxes last year, what I'm going to call the bill due in December, you're projected to have that amount increased by $4.99 in the 23-24 year. Meaning this is numbers you paid in December of 21. You would not see an increase until the bills of December of 23. I just want to highlight that. The number on the left is simply a comparison to the amount that you would have paid last year. I'm going to use the $500 line now, just to make sure we see how this chart would work. If you look at the left-hand side and go down to the $500 amount, if you paid $500 in December. It is projected that you would pay $524.95 in December of '23, or an increase of $24.95. That final column shows you that that would be an increase of $2.08 a month. The logic for that being there, guys, is so many of us are paying our ad valorem taxes right along with our house payment. So we've got 1/12 of our homeowner's insurance, 1/12 of our property taxes, as well as the principal and interest component on our home loan. The idea there is to see, well, what does this really do to my take-home pay? And in that example, if you paid $500 last year, it's a projected change of $2.08 a month. Is that money? Yes, it is. But I want us to all really think through how much does that affect us? The logic behind me choosing 500 as my point there is we have a chart where we add all 77 counties ad valorem average together. Add all 77, divide by 77, find out a state average. The state average is $507. That does not mean anyone in this room pays that exact average of $507. But the logic for going there is everyone wants to know, hey, what does this do to the average Joe, average Jolene there? So I'm using 500 as that figure. If you do not know what you paid, you can go online to the Caddo County Treasurer's Office. It's a very, very easy find online. Type in your last name, and if you have a common last name, you'll have a lot to look through. But type in your last name, go down, you'll find your property singular or properties plural if you own more than one tract of land out there, and you'll be able to add up what you paid and then figure out what your change would be simply by figuring out what 4.99% more would be. And Mr. Speedy said he's got his computer up here online, and anyone who has a question or needs to see what theirs are when we're through tonight, feel free to come up and he will gladly tuck you in and show you. Not to insult anybody, you can see this as an example on that 4.99, but you would literally take whatever your amount is and multiply it by 1.0499. And if you will, same example is shown here, 500 would become 524.95. So that'll instantly show you the new change. You can subtract new from the old and see what that really means to you. But that is the importance of the impact, or the importance to me in your shoes is, what does this do to my take-home pay? Hey, this is awesome, it's a great project. It's only fair to know a cost. How do I figure out what that cost would be to me?
Could you also cover about from our previous bond issue? Could you also cover about how from what happened on that, or from our previous bond issue, how we had basically a tax increase there, and then based off of devaluation or the factors would be how that increase then fell. This one would essentially just raise us back to where the previous bond issue was. So we would really just go back to where our last one, and that one is going to expire.
We'd be going an absolute smidge above, but I think I can go where the logic is, and tell me if I missed on that. What I'm going to cover is showing, due to the growth in your tax base, how much has it cost you over time versus what was projected over time. Am I hitting the right idea there? Back in 2013, April of 13, when we voted for the high school, the tax base for Hinton Public Schools was, I'm around, guys, it was $33,500,000. For those of you as nerdy as me that have to hear it precisely, it was $33,538,616. I'm going to call it so I don't get lost, 33.5. Over that time frame, you've grown to your current valuation of $54,917,357. Again, round figure, so you've grown to about $55 million. The projections, figuring out how much money you'll have and how much you're willing to pay and what impacts your taxes, is based on how quickly that tax base grows. We have utilized on this one and in the past different tax rates, but different growth rates, but always those that are conservative compared to where you are now. That'll make more sense here. Over the last 5 years, your tax base has grown at an average annual rate of 6.51%. That doesn't mean any one of the 5 years was exactly 6.51, but each of the last 5 years add together and find your average is 6.51. To be conservative, the board used half of that rate. So we're assuming we only grow at half the size of what we've done the last 5 years. Long-term history was 6.64%, so we're using the smaller figure, being extra conservative here. We're using 3.25% in your growth rate. If we once again grow faster than that projection, that means the tax impact to you is smaller than what is being told you right now. However, if I'm sitting in your chair, it's a lot easier for me to assume I'm going to pay $4.99 per thousand, a 4.99% increase, and it only end up being a 3.6 or a 3.3, insert your own figure here, is a lot easier to stomach than them assuming shooting big and missing that number and you having to pay more. So the figures are conservative, just like they were last time, but that's why going back to the beginning, you're paying less now than you were projected to be paying back then because you've had that tremendous growth in growing from 33.5 to almost 55 million. That is a lot of new dollars, different dollars that have come in to help you pay this. Whether that be gas, whether that be pipeline, whether that be wind energy, whether that be new fences, barns, houses, etc. that you all have built. The whole thing has increased that tax base, making each person's portion that they pay a little less because it's spread out over a larger number of people.
Just a question, would inflation affect that tax base? Basic inflation, the cost of things?
Yes and no, in that as they come back and figure what the taxes, the new valuation is, that will show up in the properties. But it's going to show up a lot more in brand new properties or properties that, let's say Shane just sold something to me.
Okay.
It's now going on the tax rolls at what I just paid Shane for it, not at what Shane had it at. Because as the longer we own property in the state, the most that property is going to go up, assuming no improvements to it, is 3% per year.
But anything like any new machineries or stuff like that, accounting for the cost.
The new stuff would show on those machines until the state changes what its amounts are for each. A backhoe is worth this much, and has this many years worth of life. A front end loader has this. Till they change those schedules, that part will hold steady. But as they change the schedules, kind of like the IRS mileage rate, as gas goes up, that's going to have to go up. When gas goes down, that comes down a little. So it will impact it, but it's more impacted by the fact that someone bought it and reset the price now at that what is an inflated rate, rather than us slowly going up over time owning our property. That was a real nerd answer. Did anyone follow that? If so, we'll laugh outside about it.
Thank you, Matt. This is a really important issue, so if anybody does have a specific question about it, we're more than happy to address one or two questions. Okay, everybody's happy. Or, like I say, when we're finished with the meeting, feel free to come up or write it down, and we'll address it too. So, all right. We do have some questions up here that some people have filled out. If you still have a question and you want to submit it, please do so, and we can go over it. Jared, do you have something you can? No, he just got his own. Okay. All right, so we do have a few questions here. Let's pick one out. How will this project benefit the students and the community? It's kind of a general question, but who would like to take this one? Jason, you want to give us your interpretation of how this project will benefit students and the community? Jason,
Should I stand? How will the project benefit the students? And we'll cut into it, okay? I apologize. I'm far from a public speaker, all right? So we'll call this a grassroots speech, if anything. students, now look at this building we're in right here. Fundamentally, looking around, is there anything wrong with it? No, I mean, it's keeping us dry right now, right? We're warm, it's all fine. But forward thinking and where this community's growing and going to, is this gonna meet the needs? Is this the best that we can do for our kids or the kids that are gonna come? That's the question that we're saddled with. You know, the problem's not always what our issues are right now. It's trying to get prepared for what's coming at us. And I think it's unarguable that Hinton's gonna change. You know, I mean, I moved my family here 15, 16 years ago now. And it's different than it was 16 years ago. I like to think it's a little bit better than it was. It's had its ups and downs, but we've changed, you know, and so we've grown. If this community continues to develop and evolve, we're going to have greater and bigger needs. And if we have to play catch up to accommodate those needs, it's going to be challenging. Now, I didn't have the opportunity to graduate from Hinton High School. I started out at a school much the same size as Hinton. You know, I graduated from Choctaw High School. Whenever I started out at Choctaw, we were a little old 2A school whenever I was a kid. I went from, get my grades straight, from 2nd grade to 11th grade, and I never was in a classroom from 2nd to 11th grade. I was in a prefab the entire time. When Choctaw grew, we didn't see it coming. Now that was driven by Tinker. I doubt we're going to put an Air Force base in Caddo County. I'm realistic, I get that. But there are factors that could cause this community to change. When we decided that we could not develop and grow fast enough to accommodate the kids, and it was challenging. You know? And so I know a little bit about what it was like to not be forward thinking or be behind and try to catch up. You just can't do it. I know times are challenging right now. That's a little, there's somebody had a question on here, you know, why now? Times are tough. That's real. It is. And do we know what's going to fix to happen? Absolutely not. But more than anything, because times could get tough, what do you think is going to happen in Caddo County if times get tougher? What do you think is going to happen to the schools in the community south of here? You think they're going to make it? Or do you think there's a high chance that we're going to have to absorb those schools? We're going to bring them in here? We got lights falling down right now. So will this benefit the students, or how? We're going to give them room to breathe. It's more than just athletic facilities. You know, one of the things Shane touched on, I thought he was a little hokey with it. Sorry, dude. But until I really got to thinking about it, you know, because Shane kept talking about, you know, he wanted these facilities to have places for kids to shower. He wanted to have places for them to have individual spots to go shower. And I'm thinking, man, you just go in the locker room, you take a shower. It ain't got to be that fancy, until I realized that we've got kids within this community that may be the only place they get to take a shower. That makes me sick. So will it benefit the kids? Damn sure might. Okay? You know, a place to wash their clothes. This facility has a place in there where kids can come and wash their clothes. That's a benefit. That's a benefit. So it's a little bit more than a football field. Quite a bit. decision of what they're gonna be when they grow up. I see we're coming to a fork, we're gonna grow. We're gonna grow. And which fork we take will decide what we look like and what we're gonna be. It's a tough decision, I know it is, but long term, it's about getting prepared for what's coming at us. Now, the community, I mean, I think there's some positive stuff in this. I mean, I've watched this community rally around itself multiple times, you know, multiple times. And, you know, it's funny, I've also seen it, we're really good about coming around each other in tough times, but we're also really quick about complaining about stuff when it isn't any good. I mean, I've seen us complain about how bad some of this stuff gets. We're just trying to improve it. That's all. We want a nice place for the community to come to. That community wellness center, I don't think anybody touched on this point. That community wellness center, a lot of the equipment that's going to be put in there, that's state-funded equipment. Am I correct? Ken, you were correct on that, right? That's from a grant, but we've got to have a place to put it. And that's free for a lot of us to use. You know, and I'll look in the mirror. It wouldn't hurt me to go get on some of it. So, I mean, some of that, there's a community benefit to it also. So, I mean, I hope I address that question. I mean, if anybody can go probably deeper into it, but how is it going to affect the students? In a lot of ways. In a lot of ways. Do the next one.
And he says he's not a public speaker. All right. All right. That was a little bit emotional, but I really appreciate that, Jason. We all do. And he's right. You know, for a lot of kids, this is the best part of their day, and sometimes the best part of their life is their interactions at school and the friendly faces of our staff and the facilities that feed them and help keep their clothes clean and everything else. So it is important that we continue doing what we're doing as good or better than we have in the past. My short perspective, I think we all are going to say a little something about how we're looking at this project and what it does. And for me, it's a little bit competitive. I feel like in a lot of ways we are actually competing against, you know, other communities in this area for the kind of people that we want to be our neighbors. You know, the people who do things the right way, or you know, or have the right kind of, you know, just the kind of community that we want to build. We're competing for those students and for the people that we want to be a part of this growing community. So I think this is the type of thing that can help us be competitive and help us continue to grow with good quality and not, like say Jason even mentioned, we're going to grow. Even if we do nothing, this community is going to grow, but how it grows can be up to us to some degree. So that's my short perspective. Jody, you want to say just a little bit about how you're thinking?
I just thought I'd add that with this new facility, it positions us to be able to offer events here in our community that impact, you know, when a team, right now we can't offer a lot of tournaments because we don't quite have the facility to do that. But when we do, it brings more people into our community to spend, you know, dollars in other ways and for something for our kids to be proud of too and to help take care of. So that's just something I wanted to add on that as we continue.
Just kind of add to the community benefits. If you think about it, when we support bonds and better schools, better public schools, better facilities, first benefit to the community is a health benefit. When we talk about the wellness center, which is available to the public, the walking track, so any kind of weather, people can use that track. So, you know, in a way, you need to look at it that way too. That supports better health. You think about some of the additional amenities for the community, like meeting rooms, event rooms. Somebody in the town wants to do something. The town wants to hold an event. They need a place, a facility. They want to have a big event somewhere. the idea is to make that facility available to the community for that. And you know that, building projects like this help anchor communities. When you have a school that you're proud of and you can offer a facility for events that bring people into town, this is not a economic study that I did myself, but I did try to find information. What is the impact of a bond project to a community? So I kind of had to extrapolate my own figures because all the studies I looked at included like fairly large bond projects. And one was done by Tarleton State, and they looked at a bond. And I'm just trying to figure what kind of money, and you guys can correct me if you don't think these numbers are correct, because this is not an official numbers, but a $36 million bond could potentially pump, and it wouldn't be just Hinton, because understand that they're buying things from other places, but there is going to be some impact to Hinton, and a project of that size usually pumps about $50 million into the economy of surrounding, not just this community, but buying materials, hiring workers. It's going to take at least, 100 or so workers to come do these projects. They come into town, that's an economic benefit. Sure, they're going to be needing materials, supplies, food, maybe places to stay. That's an immediate economic impact to the town, to Hinton. So I would think that if you're on an economic development board or if you're on town council, that sounds like something that you might want to support. And if you have a business in Hinton, that may be something you want to support, because that brings people and goods. One thing I also looked at was they, as far as spending goes, and construction workers and all that they spend potentially $4 million or so to be spent. And then just kind of looking at figures and tax revenues, even though we're taking tax money from you, from your property taxes, there will be additional tax revenues pumped back into the town when materials are bought and things are bought, and property values actually increase because we have a beautiful school with great facilities and people are moving here. So when you talk about economic benefit to a community, there's an immediate impact from the actual construction of the project. Then the lasting impact is, and this is where it takes a little bit of cooperation and work by us as a community. And I know one of the problems is having places for families to move to that will want to move to a school where they have great facilities, where they can bring their kids, and if they're great athletes, great, but maybe they're not great athletes. Maybe they just want a nice school that offers them opportunities to do things in a school of our size. And so the idea is that not only we've grown 100 kids since 2013, is that what you said, Marcy? And it's been and most of those have been recent. And so you don't just bring a student, you bring a family to Hinton. And so the economic benefit, the tax man taketh away, but we also may give it some too, because there's going to be economic benefit from a bond like this. It didn't just sapping every resource from the town. So I think when you talk about community benefit, that's one of the things you've got to look at is the total economic impact, and it's not all negative. And so that might help me to answer. We have some questions. I might just answer this one question as far as have we looked at other grants or other outside resources to do some of these projects, and there is a constant effort to look for grants, whether federal, state, whatever. But understand that when you do a bond project, we're statutorily limited to how we fund the building projects, and we have to offer these through a sinking bond fund. And so unfortunately, Oklahoma, that's the only way we have to finance capital building projects. And so I know when you think of that, if you're a large landowner or a large property owner, that seems unfair to you and impacts you more greatly. And we understand that, and we didn't take that for granted. And we understand too that I looked impact some people. And, because I wanted to know what are we doing, how's it gonna really impact them? Because we don't take lightly that some of you will be paying more. And, so let's say, we did like a $500 favor, let's say if you had, maybe $10,000 in property, or even more. Maybe you had up to almost $14,000. I think the figure out there, you pay about $680 more in property taxes per year for the year. And I'm not saying that's chump change. That's a significant figure, but it's probably not as much as you thought it was going to be. So there is a cost, and some of us have to bear it more than others. And it's sort of like paying income taxes. If we make more, we have to pay more income taxes. It's just the world we live in, but it's the only way we can do it and fund the capital projects that we need. And as addressing as far as, you know, do our students need this? Why are we doing this in such a large scale? If you think about, we looked at a few projects that other towns have done. And towns that are progressive and forward-thinking, they're constantly in a state of bonding, basically, for their schools, because there's always improvements to be made somewhere. And we want to be that kind of community. That's how I envision Hinton to be, is that kind of community. But you know, you think a football field's only going to be used by the football team or track. But when we were there at Elgin, we were just there on a tour, and right in the middle of the school day, a group of elementary kids come running out onto the football field and the track, and the elementary was using that facility during the day for events for their elementary school. So it wasn't just for a football team or that, it was being used constantly. And it will be used constantly. And we know we've been needing a new field house for a while. We need a weight training facility. I have a son who's benefited greatly from weight training, and he's going to get to play college football. But we don't have that kind of facility here that our athletes need to be a high performance type athletes. And if we're going to be playing 2A football in a few years, the way we're growing, we're going to have the kind of players that can walk out on the field and perform. And this facility will benefit those students and help them do that. As far as Jim, I think Jared could speak to this, or Marcy could, about the scheduling difficulties that the school has, because the Dome is, while it's a great facility, it's a great place to watch a basketball game. It's not necessarily the best place to practice basketball. And with wrestling, just going through the roof, male and female wrestling, that Dome Center can be a place for them to have where they can practice and do what they need to do. So we're not, and I know that's one of the talks is, you know, do we need 3 gyms? And yes, we do. We do need 3 gyms. We need one we can practice in. We need one we can hold events in. We just went to a regional in Bridge Creek. Great facility. It looks a lot like what we're probably going to build. They're holding a regional event there. I don't know how many people brought to town, but I've also seen how many people come to wrestling events. And you talk about maybe running 800 or 900 people through your town, because you can hold a regional type event that lots of schools will come to, and they may stay a while. They go buy food, they go buy goods they need, they may buy gas. If we get the kind of housing they need, they may need to stay overnight in lodging. So there's a ton of benefits, so when I think about community and students, we have reasons why we did this, and we thought about it a long time. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but I just want you to know that we appreciate our taxpayers, and we appreciate our landowners, because we know what they sacrifice and know that they have to kind of step up sometimes, maybe provide a little bit more. But we tried to balance that with what was needed and the increase that was necessary to meet the need. And I can tell you at one point, we got to a point where, yeah, we to keep things at the same level, we can't do this, so we can't do this. Yeah, but then maybe we could do it in 5-6 years. Yeah, then it's too late. So we got to a point where we had to say, okay, we're going to have to raise it just a little bit to raise the money we need, and based on, like we said before, you know, the efficiencies with building like we are now and not waiting far outweigh what the cost is now. So that's kind of was my thinking into this passing of this bond.
Thank you, Ken. Ken's had many roles at this school, from parent to board member for a long time, so his viewpoint's definitely appreciated. Thank you, Ken. That's very good. I'd also like Jared Holman. Jared's had many roles at this school as well, from parent to coach and teacher and now administration, and he's also our athletic director. So he's the one who has to go out and decide who's going to be able, or how our facility is going to be able to be used by, you know, whether it's regionals or districts. So he's been a really important part of kind of our vision and what the future could look like for him. So Jared, would you tell us a little bit about your vision?
All right, thanks, Shane. Just a couple of things. Again, for those of you guys that may not know me, I'm Jared Holman. I'm the high school principal and athletic director, so I can speak very openly about this subject, considering that, you know, as athletic director, you know, my job this greatly impacts what I do. One thing I will say that I appreciate the school board. They've been very open and receptive. I've been in every board meeting. Every time we talk about something, I go to the coaches. Because honestly, that's who's going to be using this facility, is our coaches. And we want to make sure that we're doing things that's going to benefit them and benefit their programs. And they've been very receptive to all those ideas that our coaches have wanted. You know, part of my job as athletic director is to make things work. And I can't tell you how many times this year where my wrestling coaches come to me, Coach Holman, I want to have a wrestling tournament on this Friday and Saturday. We can't. I'm sorry, we got a basketball game. I'm sorry, we can't. We've got a Christmas concert and we have so many elementary kids, it's got to be in the dome. So I'm sorry, you can't have the tournament. You can only have it on this day. So we have it on a Friday and Saturday when we have a basketball game away. We're using both gyms for the wrestling tournament. Great, awesome, wonderful. Our boys basketball is in the finals of the Burns Flat tournament. They don't have a place to practice. They don't have a place to practice. You know, and this opportunity right here will put every single one of our students in a position to succeed. We'll put our students in a position to succeed. Our wrestling room is not big enough. It is not acceptable. Mainly because 3 years ago we became one of the, I would say one of the big programs in Class 3A with girl wrestlers, female wrestlers. You know, we have just about as many teams many wrestlers as a 5 and 6A school. When you take those athletes, combined with the fact that we've now got pretty much a full team in our boy wrestling, it's not enough room. So we moved them out into the multi-purpose, 3 mats. You say, well, that works. Well, this is where our cheerleading practice before then. So now our cheerleaders have to roll their mats up on the side, and then they roll them out. Well, that works. Well, elementary P's in here. Elementary Rise and Shine's in here. We just place them. Okay, so when we say we've made it work, yes, we've made it work. Not me personally, not Ms. Garyberry, our teachers, our coaches, they've made it work. But we can make it better. We can make it better. And that's what this project does. It's going to open up, I promise you this, and as athletic director, I am extremely aggressive in getting to host any type of event we can. Coach Pat comes to me on a Tuesday, Kingfisher is closing down school, they're not going to host a conference wrestling tournament. When is it? It's this Friday. Let's go. Let's have it. We'll figure it out. We have it on Friday and Saturday. We bring over 1,000 people. We had about 400 or 500 wrestlers, plus, you know, the parents and grandparents. grandparents to come watch. They're coming into this town. We're only going to do more of that. This football facility, it's going to open up an opportunity to host, hopefully Hinton's playing in the playoffs. But if not, I have no problem emailing Noah and say, hey, let us host a Class B state semifinal. We got the best facility around. Let's have it. We'll do it. Yeah, and then then we talk about, so that's the football part. And something else I will say about the football field, right now, another benefit is this impacts our band program. Right now, our band, we don't allow them to practice for marching contests on our football field because it's a grass field, it's too much wear and tear. We want that football field looking good on Friday nights. So we got a little painted imitation field over in our parking lot in our high school. Well, now with the turf field, they're going to be able to practice their full routine on an actual field. And hold contests. We can't hold contests. Any band contest that goes on right now, every one of them is at a school that has a turf football field. Because nobody with a grass field is going to let them have it. Think about the event center. I go back to the Dome in 2006 when that was built. We didn't have a basketball tournament prior to that dome being built. You know why? Because nobody would come and play a tournament in our old gym. It wouldn't. Since 2006, we've had a basketball tournament every year. We bring in a lot of people from all over the state. They want to come to our tournament because we got great facilities. That's not going to stop. That's only going to get better. It's only going to get more. We're going to have a stage on the event center. Why is that important? Well, now that allows us to have concerts, allows us to have, our graduations, allows us to have really just any other type of event where a stage might be needed. That's going to be a part of it. Again, you can tell I'm excited about this. And I approach this as a parent. I've got kids in school that are going to benefit from this. I'm a taxpayer. I'm an AD. I kind of wear a lot of hats, but I think this is really going to put our school, it's going to set us apart, quite honestly, from anybody, not only in Caddo County, but anybody in this southwest part of the state. There's not many schools in this part of the state that are like Hinton. There's not many schools that offer the things we offer. There's not many schools that offer wrestling for male and female. There's not many schools that have marching band. There's not many schools that offer the things we offer. That this bond issue is going to greatly impact and make it that much better. So, I would just say to anybody, any questions you have as I wrap up, please come talk to me. Please come to the school, come to the high school. I've had a few parents that have called. I've had a few that came by and visited, and I think they would say that, man, I sat right down and we talked. And I would love to answer any questions that you have, because I'm there at the school all day long. Okay, so if you do have questions, please come and ask me, and I'll try to answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you very much. That was great. We have a few more questions that we'd like to address, so maybe each of the board members is going to maybe take one that they feel like they want to answer, and we'll try to wrap up here. Thank you all for coming and all the time you're spending here listening to what we've got going on. So, Jason, you want to take a question?
Yeah, I'll take one that probably can be asked and answered pretty quick, then I'll take another one that I'll probably need to draw some help with, okay? Because I don't have the answer. Got one here. Why are dressing rooms needed at the baseball and softball fields? Because our softball girls are having to change in the parking lot. Not cool. Not cool. And it's also not just a dressing room. I mean, y'all been to a baseball game. I mean, y'all had the pleasure of using the bathrooms at the baseball field. I'd rather use the bathroom at the rodeo arena. Kind of sketchy in there, right? And the reality of it is, if we upgrade the facilities at the baseball field, which is inarguably needed, you can tack on a simple place for those kids to safely change, because we have games a lot of times during the school time. They can go down there and change in a safe place. I don't have daughters, but if I did, I don't want her out there changing in the Camry. Not cool. next one, it's above my pay grade, but I think it's a valid question. I'll take a tough question. I'd like to see what the answer is. What if our valuation goes down in the next year or in years to come? How are we going to pay for the upkeep, maintenance, custodial, heat, air, cooling, electrical, et cetera, on a new facility?
That's actually you and Marcy.
So,
I'll jump in. Fine.
The trend, I remember I looked at Matt's. The trend that we have here from the back studies that Matt Reichert has, you know, is that our valuations do not go down. You may drop a little bit, but Hinton is progressive, and we continue with them rising. What's the rest of it?
They're wondering if budgets get tight, if it shrinks. So it's kind of like, how much would a budget have to shrink, the way I'm hearing it, to not be able to pay the different bills? Or that's what I took that to mean.
Yeah, that it,
It would be very hard. There'd have to be a change in cap that would cause that to change.
so I'll answer where else can hear that then. So what basically was happening up here at the table, the answer was, what would drive that is if we had a mass migration, if everybody left. You know, I mean,
And on the property left with it.
in the property, yeah, in the property left with it. Okay? I don't have a crystal ball. But the likelihood of that might, I mean, it happened once in the 20s, but I'm not going to California to pick lettuce right now, I can tell you that. Not to make light of the situation. Well, maybe, or strawberries.
That's low.
No, I mean,
Come on,
my family from Arkansas, a lot of them went to California to do that back
that's
then.
low.
I mean, they did. That was the Okies going out west. That's what happened. But I don't see any of us leaving to go do that in all reality. But if we had a mass migration, we had a lot of the town leave and the property with it, it could happen. That's reality. If we had a mass migration. That's a reality. What's going to drive it? If we had a Great Depression? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we had a Great Depression. And is that a real concern? That's a question. That's a question.
Thanks, Jason. Basically what he's trying to say is that valuation wouldn't, the assessor wouldn't just devaluate things, right? Of course not. So anyway, so it'd be extremely unlikely that the valuation would go down. That's between
Might have
over
been a
6%.
better way to say that than to insult him. Might have been a better way, just saying.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
My question was, there could have been a better way of him saying that than to insult people. Just saying, I'm just saying.
I can speak for Jay that he did not mean to insult anybody. We apologize if anybody was insulted, but we all had relatives that went and had to leave the state, so, yeah. Okay, next question. Jody, do you have one that you'd like to field?
The question here is the 8-lane track that we currently have out north has not been taken care of. What makes us think that the new 8-lane track would be taken care of? When was I'm not sure when it was resurfaced, the old field, but it's been years, and where it's located right now by the baseball field is, there are kids right now, they're there to watch the game, and they're using it as, riding scooters and things like that. So the location of it is not ideal. The track will be better monitored if it is around the football facility. And also, the viewing of a meet at a type of facility like that is so much better with the bleachers and those things. So I think changing the location, it could be better monitored that way.
Is it an 8-lane track or is it a 7-lane
It's a
track?
7-lane.
Or is it an 8-lane track or 7-lane track up there?
It's 8-lane. This one is 8-lane, the new one.
No, the old one.
No, it's 7-lane. Correct.
7 on the straightway.
There's a couple of questions here regarding the storm shelter. How will the safe room classrooms at the middle school be used? Primarily as classrooms. There's classrooms needed in that facility, and that's what it's getting. They'll be used just like the safe rooms at the elementary are classrooms first that double as a safe room if needed. So they will be classrooms in classroom space. And then the other one is, will the new center be a storm shelter like the dome? And the answer to that is no. We're not getting rid of the dome. It's staying in place and will remain community shelter and the main shelter on the campus also.
Got another question here. Let me see if I can read this. It's kind of, it says, unless my math is wrong, of the approximately 36.9 million, only 2.5 million funds are to be used on academic needs and classroom space for students. Why, if we are, what's the question? If we are asking for you property owners to foot the bill for approximately 34.5 million on an event center that is not addressing overcrowding classroom or academics. And might need a little help from our administrators, maybe from our teachers as far as overcrowding, but we are, you're right, we are including 2.5 million that focuses directly on the classrooms. But keep in mind too, like I said, you kind of look at the football field as a big classroom also, because it'll be used by classes and by students. Like I told you the story about at Elgin, where the elementary kids in the middle of the day were using the football field to conduct some classes there for their kids, doing things. Also, I think, like Ben talked about when he first spoke, that we sort of addressed that issue with the bond in 13 when we built the high school and in the addition to the elementary. And then we were able to also redo the middle school, or the old high school, completely redo that building and update it for classroom use. So I think we've addressed a lot of our overcrowding issues that way. But you are right, Richard Brown used to tell me every good bond should include at least a few more classrooms, because we see growth. When you see growth, the middle school is one area where we can add some classrooms to accommodate some growth. Also, a lot of the buildings, we do like PE, health classes, the multi-purpose gym can be used for that, or the satellite gym. So we're trying to address this issue now. Like Ben said, it was part of a plan always to start and update, get the kind of classroom space we needed for academics and for classes, and then also later address athletics as well as part of the plan. So. And this may sound kind of cheesy, but to me, athletics and sports is kind of a classroom. I don't know, and I know sports isn't for everyone, but it really is true that athletics and sports teaches our kids a lot. It teaches them discipline, it teaches them teamwork, it teaches them a work ethic, and I'm kind of a nerd about this, but I've looked at several studies, and your best students and your best performing overall still are athletes. Usually their grades are higher, better because they're more focused in the classroom because of the disciplines they're taught in athletics. And so I know I'm kind of a sports nut, and I lean pretty heavily sometimes on athletics, and sometimes I have to correct myself and get my priorities straight. But there is a benefit to sometimes focusing on athletics and the things that it teaches our kids and the pride that it gives our kids in their school and the pride that it gives our community when we have teams that are successful and doing well. I think we all enjoyed football season this year, watching our kids, you know, achieve some success and go to the playoffs for the first time in a long time. I think we enjoyed watching them play basketball. We enjoy watching them compete in track. We enjoy watching them compete in band and sing. Or whatever it is, we enjoy our kids being successful, and that's what we're trying to address. So you are right, it's a great question, because it definitely leans heavily athletically, but keep in mind that athletics isn't just about the game itself. It's about teaching kids to be ready for life and some of the lessons they're going to learn from that, and give them that opportunity also to be successful.
So I missed a couple of questions. There was a front and back. I didn't see that, sorry. So on back to the Dome versus the Event Center, how many seats in the new Event Center versus the Dome? I think it's pretty comparable at this point. The Dome, it has, how many more? The new one has?
You're about 1,200 seats.
Where the Dome was roughly 1,000?
Yeah, 1,000. So you're going up
900?
about
Not that many.
200-ish more.
Roughly that number.
And then, I mean, the way I see it is all the seats are not for your students. That's also community. You're sitting in those seats.
And then kind of we indirectly covered a couple of these other questions, but how many students will benefit from this? Well, indirectly, I feel like all of them will at some point. They may not participate in the athletic event that's going on in there, but through the school day, I think all of them, through different things that they do throughout the day, will benefit from the facilities that are built. Directly, it does directly impact the team, however many students are participating in those events for that building on that day. These are multi-use facilities, so it's not just a basketball facility or a wrestling facility. They can be used, you know, if the wrestlers decide that the wrestling coaches can get a big enough tournament together, there's 3 facilities that they can use and put mats in all of them and wrestle in all of them, vice versa basketball. So, you know, indirectly, I think all of the students will benefit from these. All right.
All right, thank you, Clendon. We're going to finish up. Thanks for bearing with us. I know it's getting a little lengthy, but Van, Van's going to be the guy that puts everything together. So he's going to take the money and he's going to make the people work and build the buildings, create the vision that. Is that funny? Sorry. Anyway, so Van's going to tell us kind of how he's going to fill in the gaps.
Matt has a couple of questions.
Oh, yes. And I'll hand it off to Matt. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Matt. Matt's the money man. He's going to answer a couple questions.
I have one question that reads, when do current bonds expire? And I think they're referring to the outstanding bonds for the high school. As is currently structured, there would be 8 more years that we would be paying on the high school. The question that went along with that, if you'll pardon me, part 2, it says, how can the district afford this when the high school bond is still on? Most often when people vote, bonds are still on the tax rolls. I mean, truly upwards of 99% of the time, when you're voting, there's still bonds on the tax rolls. I.e. when you all voted for buses in 2019, or voted for the high school in 2013, or voted for the Dome in 2005, you had outstanding bonds still on the tax rolls. That's how when you sell bonds, the length of time it takes to put them on the tax rolls, gather the taxes, pay them off, etc., is an ongoing cycle. And as time goes, buildings get older, buses wear down, etc., there tend to always be needs for a school to ask for. So in that, I'm just simply trying to say, I'm Not sure I totally understood the question, but, you know, how can we afford it when there's bonds still on? That is how the process tends to work, is you're always voting to have things lined up to be able to issue them, to have the least tax impact on your patrons, quite frankly, on that. They also ask, valuation went up, paying down the last bond, et cetera, was kind of a statement, not a question, but I'll say that refers back to what I was answering earlier of Shane of, yes, as you've paid them off and as you've grown faster than the projected rate, that's why the millage has tended to drop. My smiley face answer is you probably didn't call up here and complain as the tax base grew and you were paying a little bit less in the millage size, because me being human as well, I don't tend to notice those positive factors like that. Anytime we're voting and the school board wants, in this example, wants to be very conservative at what they're telling you, they want to give you a number that they feel very confident that they can come through or do better than. So often you're voting a certain percentage rate, it doesn't really come in that high, but that's the error you want it to end on. You want to be surprised by it being less than what you were warned it would be. It is a commonality. They want us to look at it conservatively. I agree with them on, hey, let's be conservative on the numbers we're going with. So it doesn't, you know, tend to hit that amount. Again, we want to come through with the promise, not have the surprise there. I'll stop and hand it off to Van here.
Thank you, Matt.
So the question I had that everyone asks everywhere we go is, when are you starting and when are you going to be done? So part of this process with construction management is it's a three-legged stool. The construction manager, the architect, and the owner, and you have to work together to decide how you're going to deliver a project of this size and complexity. So the first thing that we do is we help put together the needs and the projects, and Scott and Ben draw it, and we put budget numbers to that, but we also have an overall project schedule or an idea of what the start and finish date is. So if you're voting in April, for example, one of the first things that we would do is tackle the football, bleacher, turf, track portion. And typically when you're designing these projects, that portion would take around 4 months or so. You're also trying to align that with when your funds are available, which I'll use seasons to not drill down to months because it's easier, but you would essentially get funding in the fall, and we would have design for that first phase, we would call it, in the fall, and very likely you're playing football in the playoffs, and we get an opportunity to start on that when you're done there, and to try to be done with the football portion by the following August season when you return to the 2023 season. So while we're working on that, these gentlemen will continue to design the remaining projects, and we would call that phase 2 essentially. It'll take them 7 months approximately to have those plans out, which is late fall of 2022 to have plans and start construction in say January of 23. The event center is about a 20-month project, which puts you into a target completion date of August of 2024. And then the safe room classrooms, the baseball facility, those are going to be constructed in conjunction with the event center and are more like 12-month projects, which those would be completed close to the end of 2023. So to try to put that in perspective for you, it's essentially a 2-year project start to finish.
Very good. Thank you, Ben. Okay, so I think that we have all finished with our spiel. We did have one community member who wanted to say a little bit. One of the microphones. Carol, would you like to come up and talk for just a minute? let everybody go home.
First of all, I'm Carol Garrison, born and raised here, retired educator coach for 36 years. Several retired administrators out there I see and teachers out there. I get a little frustrated when people make light of what's going on. When I see my elderly neighbors and young couples who are trying to stretch $10 a month. When the price of medicine and insurance goes up. And they're sitting in a line 2 blocks long in every town you can go to that has a food bank. Now, $10 might not be much a month for you, but it is to a lot of people. And I get frustrated when we're trying to pass a 36.9, whatever, bond, when only 2.5 really contributes to the growth of our classrooms and our academics. If our town needed a community center, our town would have voted on it. It would have been something that they would have brought up in a town meeting. We have walking trails, we have parks, we have churches that are open for people to walk in. We have a gym in town that offers senior citizen discounts and probably would let you go free if you really needed to. So for somebody up here to sit up here and for everything that he said was a joke, I don't appreciate it. I wasn't going to get mad about it, but I am now. When the same people, year after year after year, day after day after day, support this school, who are the big farmers and ranchers of this community and the business people who are trying to make a living, they're having to raise their prices right now to try to keep their businesses open. And you're going to ask them to pay more for 34-point-something million dollars worth of wants, not needs. My opinion only.
Thank you, Carol, for your perspective. We appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and finish up our meeting. You guys are... Sorry, hang on just a second. Okay, we're going to go ahead and finish our board meeting. If you guys want to stay afterwards, after our official meeting, you're welcome to come and ask questions and visit with any of us as long as you want to do that. Okay, we just need a motion for our adjournment.